All right, guys, about to talk to Natalie Kalibat. She's actually waiting on me. Conversation with Chris, part two. All right, here we go. Hello. Hi, how are you? I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
You are using the device audio. Okay, let's see. Can you hear me now?
I got you. I hear you now.
And I hear you. Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. It looks like your connection's a little on and off. I don't know. It's freezing and then I can kind of see it. There you go. Okay.
Got you. Got you. Okay. I just want to say thank you so much for giving me your time.
Yeah, I'm in my not so glamorous sports office. Got my editing computer behind me, so.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. You look amazing, by the way.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. The first question I want to, or first thing I want to say is, how are you doing? And how is your family doing during these pandemic times?
You know, so far so good. Obviously, the news keeps rolling. So being in local news, you know, there's been a lot to cover. And as a sports anchor, it's been a little bit crazy at the start of the pandemic. I was kind of figuring out how to cover things, and they had me doing some news, and then sports have picked back up, and I'm happy as can be. And my family's doing good. Thanks for asking. Very nice of you.
No problem, no problem. Let me give you some background to why I wanted to do this interview as well. It's because one, you're one of the best at what you do.
That's nice of you to say.
No problem, no problem. And I want to pursue this industry. So I want to talk to professionals that are in this industry, that's working hard in this industry, and I kind of want to build a rapport with them, and I kind of also want to learn and grow and get great advice from different professionals that are going through or have went through what I'm pursuing. So I'm a senior in college, and it's just important for me to be able to listen to professionals and really get to hear their story, because one is motivating to me, and two is also things that I keep in the back of my mind that, okay, this person went through this. It may be similar. I know every story is different and every journey is different, but there are some similar things that you can take away from different people. So that is the main reason why I wanted to hit you up and talk to you, and wanted to keep in contact with you after this conversation. I don't want to call it an interview. I want to call it more of a conversation between us, because I want to talk, but I want to let you talk as well, to me as well. So.
Oh, for sure. No, I think what you're doing is great. And, you know, there's no better way to jump into an industry than already talk to people that are already in it and making their way through it. So as you know, the industry, you're always grinding, you're always climbing, no matter where you are. And there's always room to be better. And that's one of the things I love about it.
Absolutely. Okay. And also, I know that you went to USC, which
I sure did. That's right. I'm a Trojan.
Yeah, and I'm a Trojan fan because I grew up in San Diego, California. So
that is awesome.
Yeah, and it's also one of the schools that I want to do graduate school at. So I'll definitely kind of talk to you maybe at the end on your USC experience.
Sure. So. That is awesome. So, definitely a proud Trojan. So
I love the Trojans. I really do. I've always have. I'm old school with it, you know, ever since, well, at least my days, I remember is Carson Palmer, Keyshawn Johnson, those kind of days. So, you know, and even with the news, with the Mark Sanchez and John David Booty and all of them. So, yeah, I'm a huge football fan, Trojan, and basketball too, but you got to get a little better.
Exactly. And USC has had some amazing days, and then they've had some days that have been like, what are we doing? So you've definitely, you've got to be a fan, you know, love it through and through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I like that. I like that connection we got. Let me ask you, the first question I have is, what made you want to get into being a sports anchor, a sports reporter? Like, who inspired you, or what made you want to do that?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, just going back to where I went to school, USC, and you're in LA, and I was also a student athlete there. I was a platform diver, so just balancing being an athlete my whole life, and then just being in sports media. I mean, LA is almost the most amazing city for that. And as a young student at USC, I took a few upper division journalism classes, and I sat in the front row, and I fell in love with it. So just being able to take different classes and be around people in sports media and be an athlete, it all clicked.
Absolutely. And yeah, I read about you being a diver. Congratulations. That went in 2016. I think you won Pac-12 championship in 2016.
That's right. Yeah, our
Yeah.
first time ever. So
Yeah.
it was pretty awesome to do that with those girls, and then graduate and go out into the real world after winning a championship.
That's pretty awesome. Pretty amazing. Before I get into the next question, I gotta ask, because at least I read a little bit about you, just a little bit. I know you're from Princeton, New Jersey. So how did they find you all the way over there for USC, from Princeton, New Jersey?
Pretty crazy, right? Like, there's a ton of great schools on the East Coast, so nothing against that at all. The better diving programs are, in the SEC, and just a plane ride away. So I knew that if I was going to challenge myself as an athlete, I would be going on a plane ride. And my family was super supportive of me, and they said, you know what? Shoot for the moon. LA is a 5-hour flight from New York. Go for it. Do what you need to do. We'll be there to support you. And USC just had the best balance of athletics and academics. So it was honestly the perfect fit for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I appreciate that. And yes, LA, I'm biased because, like I said, I grew up in San Diego, California. So I'm a little biased and say LA is one of the best cities in the world. So
it's hard to leave. Once you're there, it's hard to leave there because it's so beautiful and the people are so awesome, and it's like a dream. It's honestly a dream.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. I was crushed when Mama decided to move on. So yeah, I can understand.
Yeah.
The second question I have is, what type of things did you do in college? And how has that experience helped you in your current role now?
Oh, I mean, what I did in college directly correlates to what I'm doing now. So basically, my sophomore year, I started doing things for wearesc.com. So it was so funny. I emailed a man named Gary Paskowitz, God bless his soul, because he has passed, but he will live on forever, and he's amazing, and got my start in this industry. And he said, oh, Natalie, meet me at football practice. So here I am, I get out of diving practice, and I walk over, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going on the football practice field. And there's a million people here from like all media outlets. And he said, oh yeah, I'm Gary. And, I want to see what you got. So the horn blows, and he's like, all right, here's a mic. You're going to interview J.R. Tavai. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, wow. Okay.
On the spot. Wow. Okay.
On the spot, he threw me to the wolves, and I did a lot of reporting with the football team. I did baseball, basketball as well, and even all the other sports, lacrosse, swimming and diving, and track. And he believed in me from the start, and then things kind of picked up and got rolling. And then I interned with NBC4 LA and NBC Sports, and then ESPN. It just all kind of, one thing led to another. I know a lot of people say that, but it definitely is true. Once you kind of get your foot in the door and you get some experience, people are watching. You don't know who's watching and when they are, but kind of stepstones to the next opportunity.
Absolutely. Wow. That's amazing. I mean, it's a credit to you though, as far as your hard work. I mean, to intern with those places, I want to kind of bounce off that because it wasn't one of my questions, but what you said, the sacrifice. What is the kind of sacrifices that you gotta really make if you really want to be a part of this industry? I love sports to the core, but I also love my family and friends too, as you do as well. So what kind of sacrifices do you normally have to make with being in this kind of industry?
Yeah, I mean, sacrifice is a good word. I mean, just being a student athlete at USC was a job in itself. Right. You're a student 100%, then you have to compete and travel and perform and, hold your scholarship. So trying to intern and do work for broadcasting on top of it was very challenging, but it was so rewarding. You know, my senior year, I was a sports anchor for Annenberg TV News, which Annenberg is the communication journalism school at USC. So I was so busy and I loved it. You know, I wasn't staying up late. I wasn't going to parties. I didn't really have much of a life, but
Right.
I wouldn't trade
Right.
it for anything because it was so rewarding just being able to anchor as a senior, um, you know, my entire last year. And then when I got my first job, you know, right after I graduated, it was like, oh my gosh, I did this at USC. This is
Right.
exactly what I did. So I felt so prepared. I was not a deer in headlights, like, oh my gosh, this is not what I expected. It was exactly what I expected because of USC. So
I like that. And you know what? That's a great segue into my next question, because my next question was going to be about your first job. Like, how, how long did it take you from graduation to get your first job? And what was your first job that you ever had? And what was the pros and cons of that first job?
So that was another sacrifice. My gosh, my entire senior year, every night I would go on job sites and I'm like, okay, I'm going to apply to a job so that when I graduate, I have a job. So I'm telling you, you cast 1,000 lines and maybe 1, 2, 3 or so will bite, right?
Right.
So I would go on like tvjobs.com, work in sports, you know, all those different websites. And I would just send my reels and apply and send my cover letters and email news directors. And I got 3 offers out of college. And I took the offer in Morgantown.
What do you got? Natalie first. Please.
East, and I was able to, you know, just drive and see them on my off days, which I think were like Monday, Tuesdays, and then, you know, they would fluctuate, you know, all the time. And
Okay.
yeah, so I started in West Virginia, and I'm telling you, you know, someone told me before I left LA, they said, cherish every moment in your first few markets because you're going to meet some of the most amazing people in your life. And, you know, I'm telling you, I still talk to some of my best friends from West Virginia to this day, right? It's like, you know, you ride and die together. So you're going to stay with each other. So
Absolutely.
I built
Absolutely.
some great relationships as well.
Yeah, you definitely want to keep the real ones with you. That's for sure. And
Yes. Yeah.
is it tough? This is not one of my questions, but I'm gonna bounce off of it. Is it tough to make friends in this industry? With it being so competitive, I'm a competitive person naturally, but I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a sore loser, but obviously, you know, that's kind of biased. But call me that. But at the same time, I'm competitive, but I'm also friendly too. Is it very hard to make friends in this industry?
Yes and no. I felt in my first job, it was a little bit harder to make friends just because I was working weekends and, you know, I moved somewhere so fast, so soon. And, you know, all my friends were still in LA and California. So moving to West Virginia by myself was definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
So making friends, especially when you're working weekends, was a little bit difficult. But I felt moving to Morgantown, which is a big college town,
Yep.
it was, you know, people would watch you on TV and then you'd go have dinner on like, you know, your off day and be like, oh, I noticed you. You're for the sports girl from, you know, Channel 12. And people definitely recognize you. And what's nice about this industry is a lot of times, a lot of the people in the newsroom are your age. So I've been able to build some nice friends within my work and just random relationships.
That's all.
Yeah, the former athletic director at USC, Pat Hayden, when he found out I got the job in Richmond, he said, "Oh my gosh, my brother lives in Virginia, and you know, here's his number. Like, go have dinner with him." And I had dinner with his brother and his wife, and then they connected me to someone my age. So you never know, right? You just tell everyone where you're moving, and a lot of times people are like, "Oh, hey, I know someone there," you know, and
I
kind of
like that.
find
I
your way.
do. I
Yeah,
do. I do. I'm a very, like I said, I'm a very friendly person. I love reaching out to people, as you obviously know. I like
yeah,
to build different kind of relationships with people because everybody's different. You can always learn something from someone. I'm under the mindset of you never stop learning. I love
mhm.
to stay busy as well. So, you know, yeah, I like that. like that mindset. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, good deal.
The next question I have is, has there ever been a time in your life where you no longer wanted to do what you're doing now in your current role, and how did you exhibit that resiliency to not quit?
This brings me back to just being an athlete. And there were so many days where I would walk up the platform and be like, I just can't do this. I'm sore. I'm exhausted. I have a huge test tomorrow. Or, some days are harder than others. And I think it's a direct correlation with this business. Some days are harder than others. And, I'll give you an example. Like, sometimes viewers can be pretty critical and they can send you some emails, whether they're positive or negative, but people have their opinions and they want to let you know, especially as a female doing sports. I've heard all kinds of things as well. So
I can imagine.
there's definitely some difficult days, but I think, the better days and the great days outweigh them. And just telling myself I'm really fortunate to be on television 5 nights a week talking about sports. And that kind of gets me through anything. I'm very appreciative of what I have. And I love this job that, I think the hard work is definitely worth it.
Are there any times where you go maybe through your social medias, maybe Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, that you might see some comments that is demeaning, that sometimes you might take home with you or might hit home with you a little bit harder than some other tweets or some other comments being made?
It's so funny, some of the people I'm closest with, they always say, you get 1,000 great comments and you get one bad, but you always harp on the bad. So It's always, sometimes you don't want to look at that stuff, or you don't want to look into it. And, not everyone's going to be your best friend, and you got to know that. And at the end of the day, if you're just doing your best and you're trying your hardest, then, you just have to be satisfied within yourself. Right. And that's what I've learned, because, I'm just going to be who I am, and who I am in person is who I am on TV. And, if someone doesn't like it, then that's their loss, right?
Right. Awesome. No, that's great advice. It is. And like I said, I've watched some videos of you. I've read a little bit about you. And like I said, you do a terrific job, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, my opinion doesn't carry much weight. But at the same time, I do appreciate you and what you do and the professionalism that you show. And that's why I wanted to reach out to you, most importantly, because I think you're amazing.
Oh, that means a lot to me. Thank you. And, I'm beyond happy to help you and talk to you, because I know this can feel really overwhelming, even though the industry is, it seems so big, it's really so small. And then once you're in it, it's even smaller, and you're kind of on the inside of it. So I was there, I was where you were, and I know what it's like. So if there's anything I can do to help you, I think it's great you're doing these. You're really taking advantage of this time that you have to, pick the brains of people that are in the industry right now.
Absolutely. It's no better way to learn from actual people that have had experience. And like I said, I want to build a rapport with a lot of different professionals and be able to talk to them and gain knowledge, and then, make my own, obviously, journey and path. But it's so great to hear stories, and you can connect with each and every person that you talk to. Like we're doing now. I mean, we have a USC Trojan connection, because you went there.
We do. That's right.
Go to, and I've been a fan of them ever since I was born. I was born in the Midwest. I grew up in San Diego, so it's just awesome. It's really awesome to talk to you. So I'm very happy right now. And your answers.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. I'm happy that you're happy, and use me as a resource. Let me know if there's anything I can do, and it all works out. I know in the moments it can be, stressful and it can seem hard, but, like I said, my last years at USC, I casted so many lines just for, 3 to bite, but it's worth it because it's super fun and it's such a fun job to have. And I feel so lucky. I do. It's such a blessing.
Okay. I like that. And that's a nice segue, because I was going to ask you about your job. The favorite thing or memory that you have in the industry thus far that you've done, and why?
Oh man, there are a lot. There are definitely a lot. I would say the coverage of the Stanley Cup Final. I love covering the playoff races that are here in Richmond when NASCAR comes to town. A story that I love doing was sitting down with Virginia Athletic Director Carla Williams, who's the first African-American female at a Power 5 university, which was so inspiring. Sitting down with her and just being in her presence was like amazing.
Awesome.
She is so cool, and she's so smart, and she's so good at what she does. So I think a lot of times doing stories like that are super meaningful to us. You know, sometimes you step away and you're inspired. You're like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm so glad I did this interview because now I have a different perspective, you know?
Right.
So.
Absolutely.
But there are so many. Those are a few to name.
That's pretty awesome. I
Yeah.
love that Carla Williams story. That's pretty amazing. Yes, I did read about that, heard about that. That's awesome. I would say, let me ask you this. As me being a staff writer, I write for my magazine, for my school, and I'm going to also be doing an internship this upcoming fall as a sports staff writer locally in the city. I've done a couple stories for my school, sports stories, and there are times where I have interviewed athletes and the interview takes a turn, you know what I mean, from the questions that I ask. And then all of a sudden, it's like, cause I try to study as much as I can about the athlete and write down my questions. And just, I try to just be as prepared as I possibly can going into the interview. But I might get some information that's really, really juicy, like really good, but it might be demeaning to the program, right? Based upon what the athlete said. So have you ever had an interview like that where you probably had to like maybe cut some information off, and what did you do?
You mean in like a negative way or in a positive way, or just like in general?
Yeah, in a negative way.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always sometimes where, you know, the interview can take a certain turn and you're like, ooh, I wasn't sure it was going to go that way. Or, oh man, you know, I'll never forget, I sat down with a football coach that was retiring, and he stopped the interview and started bawling his eyes out. And he's like, Natalie, I'm so sad I'm leaving. And I didn't expect that. And, you know, he and I ended up having this one-on-one really personal conversation. And, you know, after the interview, he's like, if you don't mind, just like, don't put me crying on air. And I felt this moment where I didn't really know how to respond because I didn't, you know, expect him to get so emotional. And, you know, it's really cool to see different sides of people. And, you know, you see them, you know, tough on the sidelines, and then they're sitting on a couch with you in their office and they're bawling their eyes out. And it's just it's so crazy. But I think always taking, you know, the professional route and having poise and confidence. And, you know, sometimes I almost feel like during interviews, you have to put on like a therapy hat, right? A little bit. And you have to tell them, you know, it's okay, or certain situations, depending on what the story is. It can be very, very personable.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done about 3-4 stories now for the magazine, but that was my first story, and my first story doing it, and it was a feature story. And I just did not know how to take that information because I was just shocked that, you know, she would say that, or that individual would say that about her teammates. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I should write this. I don't know if I should write that. So I was really conflicted. I ended up leaving it off. But I was really conflicted at that point in time because I don't want to do anything demeaning towards the team. But at the same time, I'm getting information that nobody else has got. So it's just one of those things where it's kind of like the 50-50. I didn't know what to do then, but I just wanted to ask you if you ever had a story.
Yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of times, you know, with this industry, it's all about relationships and personal connections. And I think if you can gain someone's trust, that's huge. And I think it's really important to maintain those relationships. So I think you definitely did the right thing in that regards.
Thank you, Natalie. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. What is the one sport you would like to cover but simply haven't yet, and why?
That's tough because I feel like I've been able to cover a lot of different sports and elements. IndyCar was supposed to be here in Richmond in June, and that got canceled due to the pandemic. So I was really looking forward to having IndyCar here because it hasn't been in Richmond, and it would just be really cool to cover. So I was looking forward to that, and I hope it comes back. So yeah.
I hope so it does too, so you get a chance to cover. I've never been to Virginia, by the way. Never been there. So
It's a nice state. You would like it.
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna keep that in mind. I would ask this: as reporters and anchors, you're always on the go. Like you said, you moved to Morgantown, West Virginia. I'm not sure if there's any other place you moved prior to getting to your spot there in Virginia. But how realistic is that you get a job and stay in the same area, or is it better to continue to move for work?
Say the question part again. You said how.
How realistic is it that you get a job and stay in the same area, or is it better to continue to move for work, to move on up?
It just depends. It depends what your goals are, what you want to do, where you want to be. Being from New Jersey, I, grew up going to New York and Philly, a big city girl, went to school in LA, as you know. So I like being near or in a big major city. So normally when you start in this industry, you start in a smaller market, a small town or a small city, and you kind of work your way up. So I think definitely, the goal is always to be, in the big city, bright lights, right?
Yeah.
So I think it definitely differentiates. I mean, some people, maybe someone was from, the small market that they got their first job in, and they want to stay there, and they want to, maybe start as a reporter and then work their way up to an anchor. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason or right or wrong way to do it. So, but yeah, I think it just depends on what your goals are, what role you want to play, if you want to be in the field or if you want to be in studio, and, kind of where you want to live. I know it's hard to be like, well, I want to live in this city. You want to have a few in mind just so you're not stretching yourself thin. So
Right. Well, my passion is definitely writing, reporting. I wouldn't mind being an anchor as well. I would love to be a triple threat. That's as best as I can possibly say it. I believe the more you can be as far as an asset to a company, the company's gonna love you. They're gonna like you. So I think that's with any company, but especially with the company or the field I want to go into, sports. I just want to do it all. And I wouldn't mind learning radio too. I wouldn't mind doing that, but that's kind of way back on the list. But I definitely love writing and reporting and talking to people like yourself, interviewing, because I love coming up with questions and learning about people's stories. It's really cool to
that's
hear.
right.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. Sometimes with Zoom, you can overlap. Triple threat is great. I think like you said, the more you can do, the more valuable you can be, the more opportunity you're going to get. So, kind of at the beginning of this pandemic, when they had me like anchor news headlines at the top of the show, I was like, sure, all right, I'll do it. I'll take my sports hat off and I'll do some news and, rock and roll with that. And who knows, maybe I'll figure out how to do the weather next, So, but no, it's good to just be well-rounded. It's like being an athlete, the better you are in all areas, the better you're going to perform and the better athlete you're going to become,
Absolutely. Let me ask you, what is the best way to get your information in to different companies? And the reason why I ask that is because, they have this teamwork online website, right? And they put all kind of jobs up there and they get hundreds and thousands of applications. And, it's very hard to read all those applications for all those jobs. And like you said, other sites like Working Sports and maybe Indeed or Monster. Or is it better for you to maybe ingratiate yourself with somebody and talk to maybe like you did, the sports editor you said you talked to, or the manager of USC did you talk to, or somebody of a hierarchy position? Get their email, send your stuff in. What is the best way to get your information in? I've always wondered about that because teamwork online don't always seem like the best way to go, or like online.
I think, now that I'm aware of all the different companies that own all the television stations, like for instance, Nexstar Media Group owns my station and they own hundreds of other stations across the country. So I think one of the best things to do is to go on like Nextstar's site or Sinclair Broadcasting Group's website. And a lot of times they have a section for careers, and you can literally like research sports careers, anchor, reporter, and it'll pop up all of the different jobs. And then once you apply, and if you want to reach out to a news director and follow up with your application, I think that's, one of the best ways to do it.
Okay.
But I did, coming out of college, I did use TV jobs, and that got me my job. So
TV job.
that does
Okay.
work too. That
Okay.
does work too.
Cool. I would ask this. What are the pros and cons of being a sports anchor that you've experienced? Has it been more of work assignments, colleagues? What has been that since you've been in your current position that you're in right now?
For sure. I think a lot of people, they see what they see on television, and they see, a put together female with confidence and anchoring sports. But what they don't realize is that I'm writing the graphics, I'm writing the web stories, I'm producing my entire sportscast. I'm also doing my own hair and makeup. A lot of people think, I get my hair and makeup done for me, which is false. I mean, that is definitely not the case.
Right.
So I think as a sports anchor in particular, you wear so many hats. You do wear so many hats. There's days you're out in the field and you're doing reports, or if you have an early shoot, like for instance, I came in almost 3 hours early today to interview the VCU basketball coach, which is so worth it to me because Mike Rhodes is awesome. And I love interviewing athletes and coaches, but it's a nonstop job. You're constantly working, and social media is another animal. I always try to stuff, but I mean, there are just so many elements of this job that on TV, a viewer won't see that, so it's kind of cool to tell people, no, I have a hand in everything that you see. That's all me. So it's quite rewarding.
That is probably the best answer all your answers have been great, but that answer right there. And the reason why I say that is because I really did not have any idea that you did all that. Because like I said, I've watched videos, and it looks, that blows my mind, because I've watched videos of you and you look great with the makeup, and I'm talking about the makeup part. But as far as the content and you putting it together and everything, it just looks so flawless at times. And it's like, man, I didn't know you did all that. I would think that somebody would be helping you, somebody would be putting it together behind the scenes. For you to wear that many hats and do that, that's a really talented individual.
Yeah, that means a lot to me. It is, it's really rewarding when you have your entire creativity in your hand in your entire sportscast. And, it's awesome to see it come to life, but when there's live TV happens, so things come up and craziness happens behind the scenes. So I take it personally, it's just like being an athlete, and some days you win and some days you just have a little bit of an off day and you're like, man, I get to do it again tomorrow. So it's good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's cool. That's something that's surprising to me, but I really appreciate that answer.
For sure.
It's definitely, that was, to me, if I was in that position as of right now, that'd be a little bit like, whew, that would be a lot.
It is overwhelming. I mean,
yeah.
I know you can't see it, but I have Nike sneakers on because I got to be on the run. I got to be on the move. I got to be quick. So you put the heels on for the studio, and then you keep it real and you put your sneakers on, and that's good.
Like that. I like that. You got to be comfortable at some point in time. I like that.
You have to be. Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
let me ask you, what advice would you give any up-and-coming person that wants to be in the sports media industry as a reporter, journalist, or anchor? And I ask this because I started my own blog. I've gotten, some people say you should have something of your own coming into it. So I started my own blog, kind of blogging with different teams, covering different games, watching games, giving my perspective, stuff like that. And yeah, I'm starting an internship where I'm going to be covering different high schools out here as far as their sports. So I definitely want to do it. I want to be as busy as I possibly can and write as much and cover as much. So what advice would you give to somebody that's in my situation that wants to come up and is as hungry as I'm possibly? I mean, I don't think I could be any more hungry. But what advice would you give?
Yeah, I think everything you just said is exactly what you should be doing. And I think on top of everything you have planned and lined up, you're also picking the brains of people that are in the industry. So I think you really can't even do much more than you're doing aside from, just land that first job and, in that first market and get that sports anchor reporter job. But I think you're really doing a good job because the one thing about this industry, I mean, you can always do more. And that's the thing. You just have to trust in God. And, I've become very, spiritual and believe in God and his path for me and just how he's guided me up into this point. And I think he'll guide you as well because you have a great head on your shoulders. I think you're right in line with everything. And I've no doubt you're going to be taking my job someday. So
I hope not. I like for you to be there in Virginia, but if I could sports anchor if I can come to Virginia and be a reporter alongside with you, that'd be great. That'd be awesome because Virginia is a very good sports town with a lot of great sports teams and from afar that I've seen. So
for
haven't
sure.
been there, but from afar.
You'll have to come visit at some point. You'll like it.
Yeah. Hopefully this pandemic ends sooner than later. I'm hoping. But that's on my list. That's on my bucket list to definitely visit Virginia. So,
good deal.
Yeah. I just got a couple more. Okay.
Sure.
The next question that I have is about USC. About your time there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason why I have 7 graduate schools in mind. USC is one of them because they have a really good broadcast journalism graduate program, and I'm from California. I'm from there, and I love the place. So I would like for you to tell me how is that program? Was it hard to do? Was it a rigorous program? What kind of things did you do within the program? What should I expect if I was to go to USC?
I mean, the campus is drop dead gorgeous, probably the most beautiful in the country. Annenberg was amazing. It was challenging. It was hard. It was difficult. It was fun. I met so many amazing people there, and it's been cool to keep tabs on everyone and see where everyone's going and moving and landing and where their broadcast careers have taken them. But I mean, it was honestly, like I said a little bit earlier, Annenberg TV News, which was our television station's TV station, or Annenberg, our journalism school's TV station. It was awesome. It was real life experience. It really was. I mean, being a sports anchor my entire senior year felt like I already had a year under my belt when I got to my first job, and I felt so comfortable, and it just felt simple. It was like, oh my gosh, I just am doing what I did at school, and I think that's the best form of education you can get is real life experience. And, USC provided that. And a million times more because there's so many amazing connections, and the Trojan family's real. There's so many amazing Trojans out there, and I'm grateful to be one of them, and I'm grateful to know a bunch of them.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited about the opportunity because I was looking around different schools and USC definitely popped up. I'm just hoping and hoping that I don't have to do too much as far as the criteria goes. There's a lot of stuff goes into a graduate criteria, but that's definitely one of my schools of interest is USC. So I'm looking forward to that. And now I'm even looking more forward to it. That USC pretty much graduated somebody like yourself, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I hope you go there. That would be really cool.
That would be great. That would be. Okay. Let me can we have a little fun? Just a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you some of your favorite things. Okay. And
okay.
You just come out. Okay. What's your favorite food?
Pizza.
Now, what's the topping? What's the topping on the pizza?
Oh man, if I'm in a healthy mood, a veggie pizza, but I mean, a pepperoni pizza is just always a good thing. So I'm definitely all for just a pepperoni pizza and maybe a little side salad if I'm feeling healthy.
Oh man, Natalie, I'm rocking with you already. That's my favorite too. I love it.
Yes.
What's your favorite movie?
Wedding Crashers. So like goofy and silly. I love Wedding Crashers. I know it's.
I totally. This is a great movie. Great movie. Okay, that's awesome. I particularly like. I like Life. Are you familiar with that? Life?
Okay, I am. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, another one. So I like that one. What is your favorite sports team?
My favorite sports teams. Oh, this is so hard.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm like a world traveler at this point, right? Growing up on the East Coast, then going to school on the West Coast, then being down the road from DC, I feel like I got to be a district fan. The Nationals just won the the World Series, and the Capitals Stanley Cup champs. So, man, but there's nothing like the Dodgers. I mean, it's so hard. I mean,
oh no.
I've been so many places.
You said the worst team, Natalie. The Dodgers.
Oh man, I've going to school in LA. I went to so many Dodgers games. That was
I know.
and Kings games and Lakers and my goodness. I'd have to just say, like, at this point, I'm a fan of the games. I
understand.
It just the teams, they just being all over the place. You almost kind of. You stick to your roots, but then you also want to root for the teams that you're in the city of. So,
absolutely. If you here's what I would ask: if you wasn't a sports anchor or in sports, what job would you have?
So if I didn't do what I was doing, man, I can't even picture that. I mean, growing up, I wanted to be an Olympic diver. So I guess maybe an Olympic athlete. I went to Olympic trials, but wasn't an Olympian. I always liked business. I mean, that was something I thought was interesting, but it's hard to picture myself doing anything else, now that I'm doing what I love. So
I understand. That was a tough question. I understand. But here's the last one. The last one is, would you ever want to cover the Olympics? And if you would, why would you?
Oh, 110%. Absolutely. I mean, being an Olympic athlete was a dream of mine, and competing at Olympic trials in 2012 was one of the most amazing experiences ever. And now being in broadcasting, that would be a dream come true.
Okay. I like that. Well, Natalie, I don't have any more questions for you. You've been absolutely brilliant. The one thing I definitely would love to do, though, is being a writer and reporter. I would love to be able to send you some of my content. Maybe you can look over it, give me some great advice. I also would love to have you follow me back on my social media sites if possible. And I would like to also post this video on my blog so that people can see.
Sure thing.
Okay. Those are the three things that I have. If you have anything else go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I'm happy. Sorry, for some reason it just paused on you. Sometimes the connection's a little off. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but no, I'd love to look over some of your work, and I think that's one of the best parts of this industry is just growing and learning and getting better.
Absolutely. I would love, like I said, to keep in touch with you. Do you have a LinkedIn?
I do have a LinkedIn. Yes. Okay. Very important to have a LinkedIn.
Yeah, I would definitely add you on there because I too have one as well. So I would definitely do that. I want to say thank you again because obviously you staying up late with me being in the office. I'm not sure if you're going back on TV or not, but thank you for staying up and talking to me. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate you.
Chris, this is early for me. I'm going to be here till midnight. I anchor at 11 again. So you're good.
Oh, okay.
I'll be here for a few more hours. So, yes. So I'm happy to hang with you anytime and let me know if there's anything else I can do. I think you're on the right path and you're doing the right things and you are working so hard, which is, exactly what I did and what some of the best broadcasters that I know, they gave me that advice and then I like passing that on forward, so just keep doing what you're doing. I know a lot of people probably say that to you, but you're doing the right things. So you're right on your way.
Thank you so much, Natalie. I do appreciate you paying it forward. And you enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. And we will be in touch. Like I said, I'm following you on all your social medias. And you can do the same, and we'll go from there.
Good deal, Chris. Thank you so much. And I look forward to being in touch.
All right. Take care. Have a good night.
Bye, Chris.
Bye.